Imagine a quiet night shattered by betrayal. A sheriff, beaten and broken, watches his legacy burn. But when the flames fade, he rises, unstoppable. This is a story of justice, redemption, and the fight for truth. Hit that like button, subscribe to Story Hub, and buckle up for a tale that'll grip you to the core. It was a night meant for peace, but it ended in fire. Sheriff James Harper, a titan in Pinewood County, Virginia, was no stranger to hard fights. But nothing could have prepared him for the betrayal waiting on that lonely back road. Two rogue deputies, drunk on power, thought they could break him, thought they could burn his world to ash and walk away laughing. They had no idea who they were dealing with. This is the story of a man who refused to stay down, a badge that refused to tarnish, and a reckoning that shook a county to its core. If you believe in justice that rises from ruin, smash that like button, subscribe to Story Hub, and join us for a story that'll leave you breathless. The sun bled orange over the rolling hills of Northern Virginia, painting the pines in a golden haze. Sheriff James Harper, a man forged in decades of service, was back on duty after a brief retirement. No badge tonight, no uniform, just dark slacks, a gray button-up with sleeves rolled to his elbows, and the open collar catching the warm spring breeze. He gripped the wheel of his 1967 Mustang, a black beast with chrome that gleamed like a promise. This wasn't just a car, it was his father's legacy, rebuilt bolt by bolt, its leather seats still carrying the faint scent of saddle soap from years gone by. Every mile on this road was a communion with memory, a quiet moment James cherished. But tonight, that quiet would shatter. As the road curved past a crumbling barn, headlights exploded in his rearview mirror. Too close, too fast. A patrol cruiser roared up, tailing him like a predator. No sirens, no lights, just raw aggression. James's jaw tightened. He tapped the brakes, a subtle warning. But the cruiser didn't back off. Instead, it swerved into the opposite lane, cutting back inches from his bumper. The Mustang's tires screamed as James jerked the wheel, heart hammering. "What the hell?" he growled, steadying the car. The cruiser sped ahead, weaving recklessly, its driver either sloppy or fearless. Neither boded well. James knew every deputy in Pinewood County. He hadn't greenlit any pursuits tonight. This wasn't right. His gut, honed by years of instinct, screamed trouble. He reached for his badge on the passenger seat, but didn't clip it on. Not yet. He wasn't here to flash authority. He wanted answers. The Mustang surged forward, its engine a low, menacing purr, closing the gap to the cruiser, now stopped in a spray of gravel on the road's shoulder. The driver's door flew open. A wiry deputy, mid-30s, with a sneer that cut like a blade, stepped out. His partner, broader, heavier, mirrored sunglasses glinting despite the fading light, followed. They weren't familiar. James killed the engine and waited, hands visible, calm but coiled. The wiry one stormed toward the Mustang, hands on hips, voice dripping with venom. "What's your problem, old man?" James rolled down the window, eyes steady. "You nearly ran me off the road, son. Care to explain?" The bigger deputy smirked, arms crossed. "Oh, we got a tough guy." The wiry one laughed, cold and sharp. "Thinks he can mouth off to the law." James felt the air shift, a familiar tension he'd faced long before the badge, before he was Sheriff James Harper. He stepped out, slow, deliberate, hands open but unyielding. At 60, he stood tall, his presence a quiet storm. "Gentlemen," he said, voice low, "choose your next words carefully." They exchanged a glance, amusement curling their lips. The bigger one stepped closer, reeking of tobacco and cheap cologne. You didn't answer my partner. You think you're above us. James held his ground. I think the law should know better than to play games with people's lives. The wiry one circled the Mustang, eyeing it like prey. Fancy car for these parts. Where'd you steal it? James's eyes narrowed. I built that car with my own hands. Been driving these roads since you were in diapers. The wiry deputy's face twisted. He jabbed a finger into James's chest. Watch your mouth, or we'll teach you respect. James didn't flinch, but inside his blood roared. These weren't rookies. They were predators in uniform, feeding on power, and they were about to light a match. I suggest you identify yourselves, James said, voice steel. Names, badge numbers. Now. The big one laughed, sunglasses reflecting the last sliver of daylight. Who the hell are you to demand that? James gave them one last chance. Sheriff James Harper, Pinewood County. The air froze. The wiry one blinked. The big one tilted his head. Then they erupted in laughter, mocking, vicious. You? A sheriff? The big one spat. You look like nobody. James's heart pounded, but he stood firm. You're making a mistake you can't undo. They didn't hear him. They saw what they wanted. A black man, alone, no badge visible, no backup. Easy prey. The wiry one shoved him hard. James stumbled, boots crunching gravel, catching himself on the Mustang. Adrenaline surged, but he held back. Don't like that, the deputy sneered. We can do worse. The big one grabbed James's collar, yanking him forward. What now, Sheriff? The word dripped with poison. I've got a department, James said, voice steady despite the pain. I've got records. You're on the clock. You sure about this? That broke them. The big one slammed him against the Mustang's hood. Pain exploded down James's spine. Before he could recover, the wiry one kicked his legs out, sending him to the dirt. They were on him like wolves, boots, fists, raw fury. Kicks slammed into his ribs, each blow a thunderclap. The big one cursed with every strike. The wiry one laughed, a sick, gleeful cackle. James tried to speak, but his lungs burned. Pain seared his side. His vision blurred, gravel biting his skin. The wiry one knelt close, hissing. Think your car makes you somebody? James choked out. I am somebody. You're beating your own boss. They didn't believe him, or didn't care. You're nothing, the big one snarled, twisting James's arm. A sickening pop ripped through him. He screamed, white-hot agony consuming his shoulder. Oops, the wiry one mocked. No reports for you. They rifled his pockets, wallet, phone, badge, tossing the badge into the dirt like trash. Playing pretend, the big one chuckled. Then the wiry one circled the Mustang, kicking its tire. Bet he loves this thing, he said, eyes gleaming. Bet it's everything to him. The big one grinned. Be a shame if it burned. James's heart stopped. No, he croaked. Don't you dare. But they were already moving. A lighter flicked open, its flame dancing in the twilight. You'll remember us, the wiry one said, mocking. Gasoline hit the ground, and the Mustang erupted in flames. Fire devoured the hood, consumed the tires, roared through shattered windows. Smoke choked the sky. James's guttural moan wasn't just pain, it was loss. Raw and soul-deep. His father's car, his legacy, reduced to ash. You mess with us, this is what you get, the big one said, towering over him. Welcome to Pinewood. They walked away, laughter echoing as the flames roared. James lay broken, the heat searing his back, but something inside him didn't break. It hardened. The cruiser's tires spat gravel as they fled, cowards in the dark, thinking they'd won. They were wrong. James clawed his way up, pain screaming through his body. His arm hung useless, his ribs a furnace of agony. Blood matted his shirt, one eye swelling shut. But he moved, inch by tortuous inch, onto his knees, then his feet. Every step was defiance, every breath a vow. The road was empty, the fire his only witness. No phone, no badge, no help. But James knew these woods. As a boy, he'd hunted these hills with his father. Now, he'd hunt something else. He staggered into the forest, branches clawing his skin, pain a relentless drumbeat. The sky darkened to indigo, stars piercing the canopy. An owl hooted. Crickets sang. He fell, caught himself, fell again. Each time he rose. 2 hours later, he broke through the trees onto a gravel path leading to town. Leaning against a mailbox, blood and sweat dripping, he saw porch lights flicker in the distance. A truck passed, oblivious. He didn't care how he looked. A battered ghost of justice. He was almost there. The Pinewood Sheriff's Office glowed ahead, a squat brick building with a flag on a crooked pole. To James, it was a fortress, the heart of his county. He stumbled into the parking lot, nearly collapsing. The door burst open. "Sheriff Harper," Deputy Sarah Nguyen, a rookie with fire in her veins, ran to him, horror in her eyes. "What happened?" Blood stained his teeth, but his voice was iron. "Get the others. Lock down the county. 2 devils are wearing my badge." The station erupted. Deputies helped him inside, but he refused a stretcher. Paramedics were coming, but James wasn't waiting. Officers gathered. Veterans, rookies, faces he'd trained, faces that trusted him. He stood, arm useless, eyes blazing. "Tonight, 2 men in uniform burned my car. They beat me, tried to erase me." Silence gripped the room. "They thought I was nobody." He held up his recovered badge, scorched, but unbroken. "But I'm the man who'll bring them in. If you can't handle what's coming, step aside." Sarah saluted. "We ride with you, Sheriff." The fire in James became a warpath. This wasn't about a car. It was about honor, about every soul who wore the badge right. The smell of smoke clung to him, burned into his skin, but the fire inside burned hotter. He didn't sleep. As paramedics splinted his arm, he sat in the briefing room, absorbing every report. Patrols sealed Highway 9, blocked Miller's Creek, scoured motels. No sign of the rogues, yet. A gas station camera still showed them. Brent Carter and Josh Kelly, hired 2 months ago with shady records James had flagged. The mayor had pushed them through, desperate for bodies. "No politics," he'd said. Now James saw the cost. At 3:07 a.m., Sarah's voice crackled over the radio. "Witness saw 2 men heading to Pine Bluff backwoods. No lights. Patrols rerouting." James stood, ribs screaming. "I'm coming," Sarah protested, but he cut her off. "I'm not sitting this out." Under a star-thick sky, they drove in silence, purpose crackling like static. The SUV thumped over gravel, past barns and fields. A coyote howled. Sarah broke the quiet. "Did they know it was you?" James's voice was low. "Doesn't matter. That badge should have been enough. Hate blinds men to everything but what they've been taught to destroy." They reached a dead-end trail thick with brush, perfect for fugitives. James gripped his flashlight, pain a dull roar, and led the way. Sarah's gun ready. Boot prints, broken branches, a warm cigarette stub. They were close. A twig snapped. Sarah dropped to a knee, sights up. James signaled silence. Voices drifted through the trees, sharp and panicked. "Should have kept going. We needed rest, damn it." There, in a moonlit clearing, sat Carter and Kelly, guns by their sides, oblivious. James stepped into the light, fearless. They froze, disbelief twisting their faces. "No way," Kelly muttered. Carter grabbed his pistol. "You didn't finish me," James said, voice cutting the dark. "Your second mistake." Sarah flanked him, gun raised. "Drop it! Hands up!" Kelly trembled. "How's he standing?" Carter's voice cracked. "Just an old man with a car." James stepped closer, eyes like embers. "I'm the man who signs your checks, whose name's on your cruisers. I built this department and you torched it." Silence. "Draw your weapons. Run. Make excuses." But the governor's called. The state's coming. Every second you stall buries you deeper. Their guns hit the dirt. Sarah cuffed them, swift and sure. Carter muttered, "You'll kill us." James's voice was ice. "Number, you'll face a courtroom and the people you betrayed. And every night in your cell, you'll see my face when you burned my life down." Backup arrived, lights piercing the trees. James walked away, not weak, but done. Justice was moving, and he wouldn't stand in its way. Dawn broke, gray and heavy. A crowd had gathered outside the precinct, black, white, young, old, drawn by whispers of betrayal. They saw James, bruised, bloodied, but unbowed. A boy asked, "Is that the sheriff?" His grandmother nodded. "That's our sheriff." James met their eyes. The hardware store owner, the woman who'd called about her cat, the teacher whose son he'd saved from jail. They weren't strangers. They were his why. Applause rose, not loud, but deep. A community breathing again. Inside, the station hummed with purpose. Deputies froze as Carter and Kelly were marched in, cuffed, defeated. James sat at the briefing room table, a new badge in hand. Heavier. Scarred. Sarah reported media swarming. Richmond Times, national outlets. "Not yet," James said. "Justice speaks first." Photos of the Mustang's wreckage, medical reports, body cam logs pinned the wall. This wasn't just a case. It was a wound on the badge itself. At home, the silence was thick. Photos lined the walls. His wife, gone 5 years. His son, a lawyer in Richmond. His father, beside the Mustang's rusted frame. James sipped black coffee, wincing as he lifted the mug. He called the DA, the Attorney General, every family in the department. No cover-ups, no silence. Leadership meant owning the pain. By nightfall, the community responded. Calls, letters, food, left at the station. Not pity, but respect. Their sheriff didn't just uphold the law, he lived it. Morning light sliced through the blinds. James stood in his office, arm in a sling, refusing pain meds. He needed the sting to stay sharp. This wasn't just an attack, it was a symptom. If Carter and Kelly slipped through, what else had? The badge wasn't enough without action. Deputy Nguyen brought news. The state task force was here. Claire Hammond, a former Fed with a voice like a blade, led them. "Your hiring system failed," she said, sliding a report across. "Carter and Kelly were shielded in their last county. Your software missed it. This is systemic." James nodded. "Then I fix it." Claire's eyebrow rose. "Your own officers signed off on them." The truth cut deep. Silence had let this fester. "Give me names," James said. The meeting stretched, exposing gaps, naming names. It wasn't overwhelming. It was fuel. After, James called every staff member to the briefing room. No podium, just truth. "We let the badge become a weapon," he said, bruises fading, sling tight. "If you're here for power, leave. If you believe in this job, stay. We rebuild now." Some nodded, some left. James didn't chase them. That evening, he visited the community. Church, VFW, Latino Center. No press, just people. "You still trust me?" he asked. Most nodded. Some hesitated. He didn't blame them. Trust was earned. Back in his office, he wrote reforms, audits, oversight, body cams, community panels. The list was long, but he wasn't done rising. The scandal grew, news trucks crowding the courthouse. James didn't speak to cameras. He spoke to his people. State investigator Wesley Carter dug deep, finding voided citations, vanished complaints, lost body cam footage from 2021. logged by Captain Darrell Rhodes, James's brother-in-arms. The betrayal hit like a fist. James drove to Rhodes's father's house, finding him under an oak, beer in hand, regret in his eyes. "I buried complaints to protect us," Rhodes admitted. "I cleared Carter and Kelly." James left a resignation form. "Don't let it end with you," Rhodes said. "Burn it all down." James already was. He handed over Rhodes's file, no excuses. The department would be gutted, and he'd lead the charge. The courthouse was packed, farmhands beside teachers, teens with grandmas, all under the seal of justice. Carter and Kelly faced 14 charges: battery, destruction, abuse of power. Judge Marlene Hayes's voice was steel. Serious charges, unique circumstances. The defendants, in orange jumpsuits, looked small. Carter bitter, Kelly terrified. James sat in front, a dark suit over his sling, a symbol of resilience. The prosecutor's words rang. They took his badge, his car, his dignity, and tried to take his silence. But James Harper doesn't stay down. Kelly's lawyer spun excuses, confusion, exhaustion. James had heard it before. When Judge Hayes called him to speak, he faced the crowd. "I've worn this badge 30 years, he said. "These men chose to see a black man and assume he was nothing. They burned my father's car to feel bigger. But they stained every good officer's honor." He paused. "I don't want vengeance. I want justice. For every kid scared of a traffic stop, every mother praying her son comes home, every officer doing it right." The room stood, silent, reverent. Bail denied, Hayes ruled, gavel sharp. Outside, cameras flashed, but James walked past, climbing into his cruiser. "That was powerful," Sarah said. "It was for the ones still watching," James replied. Justice wasn't the end. It was the start. Monday, James pinned 37 reform cards to a corkboard. No double shifts, no self-investigating committees. Sarah, now leading community relations, launched public forums. People spoke. A mother about her son's humiliation. A vet about ignored calls. A former deputy calling out the system. James listened, wrote it down. Training shifted to de-escalation, not cuffs. When the state's report exposed negligence, James handed it to every officer. "No hiding," he said. Some quit. He kept the builders. Support poured in. Letters from Kentucky, Alabama, taped to his office walls. Threats came too, but James pressed on. Danger wasn't anonymous emails. It was silence. He refused the county's retirement offer. "Not till the job's done." Summer bloomed, and the station transformed. New locks, traceable IDs, a new pride. James paused by a photo of a younger him, full of hope. He nodded. He was keeping it. On his last day, the station was quiet, clean, alive. He walked the halls, touching a fallen officer's photo in farewell. The handover was simple. No fanfare, just family and community. Sarah Nguyen, first woman, first Vietnamese-American sheriff, stood ready. James pinned her star. "Back straight, heart open," he whispered. She nodded. "You showed me." He held up his scorched badge. "This saw my worst and brought my best. It's about the weight it carries." Sarah took it, tears falling. Applause rose, not for endings, but endurance. That evening, James stood on the gravel road where it all began. The earth had healed, but the Mustang's spirit lingered. He closed his eyes, hearing flames, his father's voice. "Never let them take your name." He'd spoken out, stood firm, never quit. He wrote one note. "Be the lawman your people remember with pride." Driving away, a cardinal chirped, his wife's visitor from heaven. He smiled. The town was safe. The badge passed. His legacy endured. James didn't look back, not from forgetting, but from forgiving. The guilty were jailed, the system exposed, the people stronger. Justice wasn't punishment. It was restoration. Truth. Leaving the world better. That's how you end a legacy. With purpose. Sometimes the fiercest battles aren't on streets, but in broken systems, tarnished uniforms, silenced truths. James Harper's story proves dignity is earned through pain, courage, standing when falling's easier. It's never too late to change things. Your voice matters. Your example echoes. Stand now. Integrity doesn't retire. If this gripped you, subscribe to Story Hub.